mist away, which often comes in from the trees, but it looks very clear out there, while once again further efforts to rebuild the Lola. It seems to be taking a very long time and not achieving a great deal, but I think perhaps the intention is to get it back into some semblance of order, and even if it doesn't finish the race, it lessens the work that's going to have to be done next time out. Doesn't actually look too far away from going out again, so we might have an opportunity in a moment to see whether that work has brought some sort of fruition. Now 37 years old, has been around since the 90s, done a stint in Formula 3. Frank Montagni looked at one time, one of the other drivers in the team, as if he was going to get all the way to Formula 1, but it somehow didn't work out for him at the right time. So difficult to find the right seat at the right time that is competitive, and the same applying to 34 years old Stefan Salazar. But these three making a pretty formidable team, and they've had, as we've said, the best run here. They've only actually, in the 18 stops that they had, lost a total of 20 minutes and 19 seconds, which is one of the reasons why they're still in the lead when other people have been stationary in many cases for a good deal longer. The Alexander Wirtz car, for example, for 34 minutes, and the Olivier Panis car for 37. Versian now lapping in the 3:21.2, Delotter's 3:25.1, and Rockenfeller's 3:25.6. So it's all sort of working its way out. That must be an indication that he has had a pit stop since Dino Capello's time is irrelevant at the moment. Back in, I think, in his second, so we will be getting some idea as to whether or not that car can increase its pace a little. But all the pressure really at the moment on the Peugeot, which has had the least of the problems that the other cars have had. The sheen on the road, which almost looks damp, but not. The headlights sort of come towards us. OJ OJ with the 41 Zytek engine car, Ginetta. And the traffic lining up. We get the bulletin come through, the 14-hour bulletin. Still a very long way to go in this contest, and as you said, while not a fascinating wheel-to-wheel battle, it's certainly a battle of absolute determination, and this feeling that we had creeping in a couple of hours or so ago that perhaps there might be just a chance to force the issue a little bit more. But as yet, there has been no further crack in the Peugeot armour. Flat beat of these big Corvettes. I'm quite taken by the flash of flame as they go past the pits on every time they come past us. If you look down on them from up in the box here, you'll see that flash as just a most minute break in the revs. .321.4 for Massian. showing a clear 2-lap lead on Lotterer. Rockabella almost in touch now with Lotterer's car. We could indeed, I suppose, to see some sort of change there. It is possible. Alexander Ertz with the #1 Peugeot. Well, that car seems to have picked up its pace a little bit, having had a slow lap or two. Meanwhile, return of Martin with a very, very welcome glass of water.
Yes, doing our own catering now. The J-Lock Lamborghini has vacated its pit garage and has added more laps to its tally. It's now done 120 to the leader's 238, but nonetheless, it is still chuntering and may yet end up as a car which has finished Le Mans, much against everybody's expectations. From Montagny, who is the third driver of car #2, with Nicolas Menassion, who's currently at the wheel, and Stéphane Sarrazin. Montagny looking possibly a little bit fresher than you and I, Nev, but then
yes, he does look fresh, doesn't he? I thought that.
Had food, drink, sleep, or a massage, all of which he has enjoyed. Into the garage, into the pit stand comes car #8. André Lotterer bails out.
I've had the drink. I wouldn't mind some food, but the massage I would find very, very appealing right now.
I think right now if I had a massage, I'd be asleep within 10 seconds. So André Lotterer bails out then. Car #8, he shares with Marcel Festa and Benoit Treloyer, and it is Treloyer who goes back in. How come everybody who gets into the car is shown as Japanese? What is that, a white square with a red dot on, apart from a Japanese flag? They seem to be showing that as everybody's nationality when they get into an Audi.
Do you think they have a tax system that's more suitable?
I don't know, really. I don't know. That's very strange. I have to look more closely the next time. Well, hang on a minute. Some double fumblage going on there. Now, you see, if you get out of whack, you end up with more people doing things than are allowed. You are allowed 2 people beyond the line to work on the car. 1 air gun. I'm not actually sure that the man on the rear jack should be doing things with tyres, but possibly I shouldn't be saying that, since there are judges of facts who obviously know the rules far better than me. They'll be able to judge that. Although hopefully not the one at pit exit who doesn't know the rules at all there. So we must... It's garage emptying time. Obviously the bin men are coming round or something today, because our final garage occupant has been persuaded to leave its nice warm abode. Paul Drayson's Lola Judd has been pushed out onto the apron, and it is illuminated. Not quite like the Blackpool illuminations, but like a proper racing car. It is clean and shiny and bright, and they're putting wheels and tyres on it. Nev, I do believe they have persuaded the recalcitrant little objects to leave the garage and its safety. It's rather like Edward, the train that drove into the tunnel because he didn't want to get his paint wet in the rain.
Yes. Oh, you suffered from that same one, have you?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I have a grandson I have to read it to.
It's a great story. Once there was a train who was afraid of a few drops of rain. Well, I'm not sure that that's exactly what the engineers and the PR people will tell us about Paul Drayson's car. I'd love to get down and have a quick word with Dale White, actually, but I can't. I may just take a moment to rather professionally send a text to Tom Moore and see if he can let us know what's going on. By the way, you'll be glad to know that your son did have to pay for drinks in the pub, no matter how many mentions they got, because obviously a mention from me isn't worth a hill of beans, never mind a pint of beer.
Serve them right, and serve him right, that's what I say.
Absolutely so.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going off mic for a moment while I text, so I don't say anything silly.
Right, so we look down on what's going on. Yeah, we look at what's going on here with the car that Vanina X is just about to take over. And talking with Jackie Bootley yesterday, I lie about that. It wasn't. It was on Thursday. He was saying that she really has taken to long distance racing again, and at times are competitive, and in fact she's become an extremely competent young lady, carrying, of course, that name that is so famous that goes back to her great-grandfather, who was right at the very outset of motorsport, one of the drivers of the past who made history. Car fired up, back in. And the mechanic's beginning to vent the hose. You would often sort of wonder what they're doing there. What actually doing is taking the excess out of the fumes out of the hose, which makes life an awful lot easier and makes the whole thing an awful lot safer. You say there's a fireman right by should they get a blowback or anything like that. Well, here's the car that we've been waiting to see go out. The Drayson car, which really has spent a very long time sitting there. Whether or not it was decided by the driver to stay over there, is that Paul the winner? It could well be. Probably having a quiet doze actually in the car most of the evening. But no, they're seriously putting the thing back together again. They've done an awful lot of rebuilding on it, and it is going to return, and it is going to be a finisher, and it's an enormously perhaps rewarding things for the guys who have been working on it, that they are going to try and get it to the finish, because they really have had nothing but problems from the word go.
No, I agree, absolutely. It was indeed Paul Drayson who was at wheel. Johnny Cocker brought it in, gosh, short of an actual time
4 hours
period,
ago.
I'm going to say quite some while ago, yeah, quite some while ago. And they it does sort of look like a ground-up restoration has been undertaken on that car, but see if Tom is still awake and can tell us. And I think Dale White's got other things to do, so I won't bother him just at the moment, at least until the car is gone. But if Tom Moore gets back to us, then their PR guy, then hopefully we'll figure out exactly what was going on with the car.
Work going on the other Aston there, the Golf Aston, screen being cleaned, scheduled stop, no dramas as far as we could see.
All done, all gone. We are waiting for a Ferrari for a pit stop, and that'll be the number 95 car, Tony Wielander. Wielander shares with Giancarlo Fisichella and John Lacey. That is the sole AF Corsa car, and as you can see now from the camera, the roseate fingers of dawn are stretching across the sky. Whoa, and a big lock up there from the Racing Box Porsche. Racing Box, why do I keep calling it Racing Box? Goodness me. The BSM Scuderia Italia Porsche. Stop doing that, Martin, you fool. That's the 97 car with Timo Scheider at the wheel. Perhaps just slightly distracted by the Audi coming up behind him as he whistles down towards Indianapolis. And how quick is that? That is very fast indeed. Be back with you in just a second with more on Drayson.
You rejoin us here at Le Mans as the leading car, having had a scheduled stop, pulls out of the pits back into the race, and no question that there is perhaps just that little bit of regret on the faces of one or two of the tired but still determined Audi personnel who saw that just as a pure scheduled stop and back into the race with no time lost whatsoever. Not so, however, as far as this version is concerned. The number 1 car, Alexander Wurst, with some work going on, not quite sure what there. It's something inside the cockpit. We've seen this before. It seems to give great pleasure to the mechanic concerned, but now making sure that the doors are closed.
Driver change. He was leaning in to do up the belts for Mark Genet, who we saw pitting on the pit wall, pitting on the sit wall, sitting on the pit wall.
Well said.
That could have gone a lot worse. Andy Blackmore in the background there on the right with a camera for spotters of Spotter Guides. He is your guru. Also, for those of you who enjoy playing racing simulation games, particularly by EA Sports, he has an awful lot to do with how fabulous they look. And here at Le Mans, leaving his hometown of Vancouver to come over here to do a lot of research. So hopefully we might be seeing some new sports car racing software coming out, maybe a new game. I have no other ideas other than that's what he does, and he happens to be here. So those of you who are sitting at home with your spotter guides from spotterguides.com, or from somebody else who's pretended it's their own work but it isn't, Andy Blackmore, the man in the background there, was single-handedly responsible for preparing it, with support from Nissan 370Z, Radio Mon and all the others. Nonetheless, that was Mark Genet getting into car number 1 in 4th place, and he's the man who gets really the first proper daylight stint, because, well, Neville, look under the bin bags and out of the window. What a beautiful sky. Oh, yes, you are.
Yep.
You are sitting down. What a beautiful sky it is. It is a beautiful dawn. However, red sky at night, Shepherd's Delight, that didn't work on Friday night because it hissed it down all night and was miserable in the morning on Saturday.
Red sky in the morning, Shepherd's warning.
Well,
there you have it.
Obviously it's what's it about face here in France, so hopefully that means it'll be a nice day for the rest of the day.
Notice, in fact, and probably you did on picture, those of you who are looking carefully, that Genet is actually wearing spectacles, and I think they are spectacles,
yes,
because his visor is up.
Yep.
It's quite interesting that over the years there are a number of drivers who have not had the perfect eyesight that was reckoned by many to be the absolute essential for success in Grand Prix racing and in long-distance sports car racing at unlike the Mille Miglia. And because, of course, those races are no longer part of the calendar, it isn't so 100% important as it used to be, but there have been a lot of drivers who have had worn glasses.
I can't imagine that not being able to see where you're going is much of a help in a car like, like this lead Peugeot, but if you need glasses to see, the good thing about a full-face helmet is that you can fit them on, whereas under Mark 9 goggles, it's very hard indeed to fit glasses on because the goggles fit to your face. So certainly in the 40s, 50s, 30s, when they were wearing goggles to protect their eyes from mud, stones, grit and all the other muck that came up off wheels, glasses would be a distinct hindrance.
They used to wear lens goggles.
Very quickly. Well, there you go. So you wouldn't have seen them wearing glasses.
Yeah, they used to wear lens goggles. And then in the early days of visors, very often a driver who wore glasses, like Bera, for example, was very short-sighted, used to wear his glasses under his visor. But of course the problem with that is that sometimes the visor would mix up, the glasses would mix up, and the whole thing was a total disaster. But a lot of drivers did actually wear lens goggles. Among the other drivers who used to drive regularly with spectacles was the great Bob Gerrard, one of the finest of the British drivers in the immediate post-war years. And it didn't seem to impede him in any way, shape or form as a Grand Prix driver or as a road racing driver in those days when there were more road races than there are circuit races, which is of course the state today.
Looking at the young drivers, Aston Martin, young drivers AMR, Aston Martin Racing, of course, the Aston Martin DBR9, which is currently lying third in the GT1 class, as they have overhauled the now retired Maytech Ford. There are 5 GT1 cars remaining, the 5th and last of which, by less than 70 laps, actually 68 laps, is the just 68 laps behind is the Lamborghini Murcielago with Hirovuki Iri at the wheel at the moment. Try and say Naps twice. The leader in the GT1 class is now Gabriel Gardel at the wheel of the Celine, which is still just 1 lap ahead of Xavier Masson in the Corvette. Xavier Masson seems to be doing about a 6-hour shift in that Corvette. Rather than a stint, he's actually doing an entire night shift, 10 till 6 or something. So some bullish work going on there, but that's the GT1 class. Right, now then, courtesy of my good friend Tom Moore, let's let me take you through the tales of woe of the Drayson team. Paul Drayson, as we saw, was in the car and all getting ready to go, and hopefully will still be able to go. Major overhaul on the car because it started picking up a misfire and then came creeping in with fuel starvation, and in the end a failed pipe inside the fuel cell, which itself is inside the monocoque of the car, was traced as the culprit. That has been fixed. A broken damper was also found at the front of the car. That has been replaced. They believe that caused the handling problems and the vibration and the issues at the rear that caused the spring packers to break up as well, all of which have been sort of ongoing. And they have now, well, the Drayson car did look to be all in one piece. They wheeled it back out. And the only reason I can think of for them wheeling it back into the garage is that it was not starting on the button. So more issues than an issue-laden issue of the big issue, I would have thought.
I think that rather succinctly put to bed what has been perhaps one of the huge efforts, and so sadly unrewarded huge efforts,
well, so far,
on the night.
If it had left the pit lane, that would have put it to bed, but since the wretched thing is still in there, defying all attempts by man and hammer to get it going, then I'm afraid that hasn't quite ended the story yet. It is the only car on pit road. It is the only car in a garage which is not yet an official retirement. And incidentally, of our 56 entries, 55 cars that rolled off at 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, we still have 39 running, and at 10 hours in we had only we still had 44, so we'd lost 11 in 10 hours, and now with only 9 hours to go we've still got 39 left, assuming that the Drayson car does ever decide to run again. To be honest, starting with a box of bits and an IKEA drawing might have been a better way of going about their race, because the car has clearly demanded being reduced to its components, even though that's what happened to it on Friday. It was stripped to the core and rebuilt. It now is insisting on another strip to the core and rebuild. It clearly likes it.
Yeah, you must have some extremely tired mechanics there who really have put in to no reward whatsoever the efforts that they have, and it is very sad, and I do feel for them, and I hope that you folks who are sitting comfortably trying to prop your eyes open at home accept that these guys probably have had a dreadful time over the last 2 or 3 days, because just nothing has gone right for that team, and it is a shame, because it's been a tremendous effort, and Le Mans could have been a big success story for them.
Yes, they had a, well, certainly compared to the race, relatively untroubled practice and qualifying period. 2 Corvettes in, again nose to tail, and again very hard to tell at a casual view, apart from the colour, which is the GT2 and which is the GT1 car. And the answer, of course, is the GT2 leader has just left, with Oliver Gavin having handed the car over. And I think that probably means to Olivier Beretta. We'll check on that in a moment. The other car that was in the pit lane, the other Corvette, was David Hart in the 72 Alfa Ventura Corvette in the GT1 class, which is 4th in GT1. The sister car is 2nd in GT1. Lost wheel nut, and that is going to slow down the change on that right front of the Highcroft car. No, he had another one in his wheel gun.
Great overhead shot, that, wasn't it? Really a great overhead shot on that car.
Very funky overhead shot indeed. Yeah. In fact, actually, if you go and Google, Highcroft had a camera on their car going through scrutineering. They'd done a sort of super fast forward trip in 4 minutes or something through the whole of the morning scrutineering process, which is jolly worth the watch. Car number 39 is reported as being in a gravel trap. That's the KSM Crucial Motorsport Lola Judd. Yeah, open car is in the gravel trap somewhere, and if I can find it on the timing screen, dear oh Lord, everything looks the same when you're tired. Hideki Noda is the driver of that car at the moment, although presumably not doing very much driving. post 96. I'm saying that's between Arnage and Indianapolis. Oh, it is. It's the slow left at Indianapolis. I knew that number somewhere. There are some posts that you never hear from, some that you hear from quite a lot. 96 is one of them. 106 is one of them as well. That's where a lot of the British marshals are down at the introduction to the S's. The Highcroft car running a long way offline there onto the straight to allow the faster P1 class car to go by. Plugging in drinks and radio there into the same little block. That's a nice little bit of thinking there by the Felbermayr Proton Porsche team. This is their 88 car. Miro Konopka was in it, and they're gluing the lights back in. That'll be no more nails, or the motor racing mechanics equivalent, which presumably is no more hammers. Because nobody ever fixed anything with a nail on the car, but the hammer's been used in many suitable occurrences.
Known as a Birmingham spanner in the trade.
A Birmingham screwdriver, yes indeed. Well, as I always say, if you can't fix it with a hammer, it really is broken. There's the fabulous new ACO's welcome building. There's the funfair now moved from the outside of the S's down to the outside of the Porsche curves and Ford chicane.
I walked up there yesterday to the welcome building, for those of you who are not here this year, and I went to the old one.
You walked up there for them?
No. I'm just about to tell these folks who haven't seen it what a wonderful building it is, and what a long and heavy set of stairs there are, that when you've got to it, you think to yourself, was it worth it? And do I feel like eating anything, or shall I wait and have the heart attack now?
That happens when you get to the top and you find out that the gate that's been open all day is now locked.
Yes, we've also had a bit of that over the course of the weekend.
And you have to go all the way back down 3 stories of steps, spend 10 minutes faffing around trying to secretly go up in their service elevator, which doesn't seem to be working, and then tramp all the way through the tyre paddock, round the top of the village and back down again.
A bit like when we brought the passes to you, actually, on the other day.
Arriving rather sweaty and grumpily, complaining about why have they closed gates that didn't ought to be closed. But, you know.
Very odd.
They do because they can, of course, and that's one of the joys and delights of it. Very pockmarked screen on car number 4. That's been shot blasted a little bit. Mechanic gets in with some double buffage action there. Trying to give a new screen as Olivier Panis gets out. Stalks away rather disconsolately from the car, body language hardly saying I'm having a lovely time, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, he didn't seem to enjoy that stint very much at all.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, quite frankly, as quick in the car as it has been driven.
I think he's doing a pretty decent job, but on the other hand, he obviously is still feeling, well, I'm making no impression. And that's kind of part of the deal as well, you know. If you are driving your heart out and you are making an impression on the cars in front, then that's one thing. If you're driving your little socks off and you're making no impression at all, then actually that really doesn't feel half as good, I'm sure. Away goes the Persian. No hint of wheel spin. They're not allowed to spin their wheels. Drive-through penalties for wheel spin this year.
£1,000? No, $10,000 wasn't it? Australia.
No. This is significantly more. Incidentally, those of you who didn't watch, Jenson Button qualifying on pole in the Canadian Grand Prix. Car then ran out of fuel on the in-lap. Jenson proceeded to start to push it. Relatively quickly gave up that idea because actually it's not that easy to do. However, he was fined $10,000 for his pains. Which, bearing in mind that we all sort of thought that the cars were supposed to have enough fuel left at the end of the session for a fuel sample, and couldn't they easily have been cheating and all of that stuff, the team seemed to think was a remarkably light get-off for somebody who was in what possibly was a major infringement of the rules, and particularly given the fact that he was on pole position. So
I was going to say I couldn't understand any of that until you sort of basically unfolded the full newspaper.
Yeah, well, I like to understand.
It has supposed to start on the fuel that's left in the tank, having put in the time, correct?
Indeed.
So if there was no fuel in the tank in the first place, how could it possibly have started?
No, it had fuel in the tank, but it's supposed to have a certain amount left at the end for sampling. Now, in some forms of motorsport, it's 3 litres. In, I don't know what it is in Formula 1, because I'm not entirely sure I can care, Loss. but it didn't have any left for sampling. In fact, it didn't even have any left for getting back to the pits. So therefore, it was clearly in breach of a regulation, and since you stuck the car on pole position for a Grand Prix, and you can't sufficiently fulfil the regulations for post-scrutineering, surely you should have lost your time at the very least and been thrown to the back of the grid at the very worst.
Well, he must have been thrown to the back of the grid because he's not in pole position, is he? It's Hamilton in pole position.
That's what I said, Hamilton.
Oh, I beg your pardon, I think you said Jenson Button.
No, maybe I did. I meant Hamilton. I knew I meant Hamilton. I knew my mouth was saying Hamilton. If it came out as Button, then I do apologise. It was Hamilton. Anyway, I'm going to have to get back to Tom Moore now because the car still hasn't left. But he said this fix does feel slightly longer than the original 12-day build of the car last autumn. So the Drayson Lola Judd still being obstreperous. Hideki Noda is in his number 39 car after going very slowly into the gravel or somewhere else. So two cars on pit road. They've been joined briefly by Andy Merrick in the number 6 Orica AIM. That is in for regular service and will depart in a minute or two as we ride on board into the increasing daylight in car number 2, the race leader. Here's the Orica AIM. Excuse me, Andy Merrick with his plain black carbon helmet. Still hasn't, so new he still hasn't had a chance to have it painted. Either that or he just wants it plain black in carbon, not quite sure which. Haven't had a chance to catch up with him. Of course, last year he was here with the Collis team and spent quite a lot of time chatting to us because he was their reserve driver but hadn't qualified and so could not take over when Narain Karthikeyan dislocated his shoulder jumping over the pit wall on race day morning from the grid. So Andy Merrick here potentially to help out. Then the case arrived to help out and he wasn't able to. This year though he's actually got a driving drive and as a result we haven't heard one from him, I'm afraid. Still good to see him in the drive rather than sitting alongside us trying to keep us entertained. 5:57 CET coming up to 5 o'clock in the UK. We'll be back in just a moment at Le Mans.